Vipassana meditation is an ancient technique of truth realization that was rediscovered about 25 centuries ago in the land we now call India by the man known as the Buddha. After the Buddha's death, the technique flourished for several centuries until the rise of new civilizations all but swept it away. One country where Vipassana survived in its original form was Burma. Nowadays, anyone wishing to learn Vipassana meditation may come to a centre like this one in the Australian Blue Mountains, about a 2-hour drive west of Sydney. One of the foremost teachers in the Burmese tradition is Mr. S.N. Goenka, who left Burma in 1969 and helped reintroduce Vipassana to India and continue its spread to the West.
Friends, I am here to explain you in a few words what is this technique of Vipassana meditation and how it helped me and how it keeps on helping thousands of people around the world. In my early 20s, I was a very successful businessman in Burma. And with so much of business activities, I developed a lot of tension in my life. Although I was very successful materially, but I found there was no peace in my life. I hardly could get sound sleep without any sleeping pill. Slowly it developed to a stage where I used to get very severe migraine headaches, and all medicines were ineffective. My family doctor started administering morphia injections. Every fortnight I will have a very severe attack of migraine, and then a morphia injection is given. It went on for a few years, and then this very family doctor became very much worried. He feared that I might become morphia addict. But the best doctors in Burma could not help me to come out of migraine, could not help me to come out of morphia. In those days, I used to travel to different countries in the West for business purposes. My doctor advised me that I better consult some of the best doctors in the West, at least to come out of morphia. So I tried a few weeks in Switzerland, a few months in Germany, England, and America and Japan, but I was unsuccessful. No doctor could take me out of morphia. Taking me out of migraine was far away. I feel myself very fortunate that coming back to my country, I was suggested by a very good friend of mine that I better try a course of 10 days of Vipassana. I met my teacher, who was a householder and a government official. He was the Accountant General of Burma, Sayaji Ubakhin. When I met him, and he explained me that this disease is nothing but a psychosomatic disease, and this technique of Vipassana will purify my mind, the tension will go away, and as a result, I might get cured from migraine. But he also warned me that this technique is a high spiritual path to purify the mind and to live a very healthy, wholesome life. curing migraine is just a byproduct of the technique. I was attracted by what all he said. He was a very saintly person. I decided that I should join a camp of 10 days. But then there was some hesitation, because I was born in a very staunch, conservative Hindu family, and here was a teacher from the Buddhist tradition and a technique of Buddhist tradition. I thought I might get converted from my religion to another religion, and because of that, hesitation was there. But having heard all that my teacher told me about this technique, I understood that this is a very known sectarian technique. I better give a trial. So I went for a 10-day course. Certainly, the first 10-day course itself gave me such a big relief. Not only I was relieved of the migraine, but I found that I am relieved of so much of tension in my life. The great ego in which I was involved because of high position in the society, because of my successful life, this egoism, this started giving me all the tension, and it was the main cause of my migraine. And by this technique I found the ego was getting dissolved. I was getting liberated from the tensions, and naturally there were no more migraine attacks. As I passed through this technique and I continued to practice it, I found that certainly there is no sectarianism involved in this technique. There is no gurudom, there is no worship of the guru. There is no cult involved. There is no blind belief involved. It is a pure science of mind and matter. How they interact, how they are interrelated, and how by observing one's own mind and one's own body and the interaction between the two deep within oneself, one starts understanding how the tensions get built up, and one starts understanding how to come out of these tensions. The habit of blind reaction creates a lot of difficulties for us. At the deep unconscious level of the mind, one is a slave of one's own behavior pattern of reacting blindly, reacting with craving and clinging whenever one experiences something pleasant, and reacting with aversion and hatred whenever one experiences something unpleasant. These blind reactions create so much of tension in the mind. One loses the balance of the mind and one becomes miserable. And one is miserable, whenever one is miserable inside, one starts distributing this misery to others, one starts making others miserable. This is certainly not a good way of life. And by this technique I found that one learns how to live peacefully and harmoniously within oneself, and how to generate nothing but peace and harmony for others. So for me, this is a way of life. This is a code of conduct. This is an art of living. How to live peacefully and harmoniously within, and how to generate nothing but peace and harmony for others. You may give a trial to this technique. A Christian will continue to remain a Christian. A Jewish will remain a Jewish, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Buddhist. There is no conversion involved in this technique. One is not getting oneself converted from one organized religion to another organized religion. Of course, conversion is involved. One gets converted from misery to happiness. One gets converted from ignorance to enlightenment. One gets converted from bondage to liberation. Give a trial. and be happy. Be happy. Be happy.
Students who come to a centre like this undergo a minimum 10-day course, during which time they live totally within the centre. Each student is asked to observe 5 precepts: to abstain from killing, stealing and lying, and to refrain from all sexual activity and the taking of intoxicants. The courses are run on a donation basis. After completing a 10-day course, one is then free to give whatever one is inspired to by what one has experienced. The Buddha said, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves."